it is the story dominating the news, isn't it? It's on all the front pages this morning. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner's future hangs in the balance this morning after admitting to underpaying stamp duty on her second home. Well, let's get the latest on this from GMB's Louisa James, who's live from Downing Street. It's quite a complicated story, Louisa, if you can put it into context for us.
Yeah, well, if you look at those headlines and you look at the bare facts of this, it looks pretty bad for Angela Rayner because at its most basic, she did not pay enough tax when she bought a house, and she is the housing secretary. But as you said, it is complicated. It is not quite as straightforward as that. You just heard Angela Rayner very emotional talking about what she says are her complex living arrangements to do with her son, who has lifelong disabilities. And so when she and her husband got divorced, they kept the family home in her constituency to provide stability for the children. But she sold her stake in it to a trust set up for her son. And so when she then went on to buy another flat, she was told by a lawyer, she says, that she wasn't liable for paying the extra stamp duty you owe on a second home because she didn't already own another property. Now, she then got a second opinion, and it turned out that that initial legal advice was wrong, and she has admitted that. So what happens next? Well, she's being investigated by the independent advisor on ministers' standards. That's expected to take days. In the meantime, Keir Starmer is standing by his deputy, saying he is proud to do so. But the Conservatives are accusing her of possible tax evasion as well as hypocrisy because she did not hesitate to go after Conservative ministers in a similar position when she was in opposition. And I don't think you can not take into account the politics of this, what an important person Angela Rayner is in the Labour family, in part because of her upbringing, leaving school at 16, pregnant, something I know she's spoken to you about, Lorraine, on the programme before. And I think that makes her a very important and unique person within Labour. And the question is whether she has blown that.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Thank you, Louisa, for now. Thank you so much. And joining me now is former Downing Street aide Cleo Watson and broadcaster Nicola Thorp. Cleo, thank you, both of you, for coming in. I wonder about this. I mean, basically, Cleo, can she survive? And should she?
I mean, she can survive because it's in the Prime Minister's gift. He will be given a report by the Independent Council on ministers' standards and ethics. That person does not get to say, Prime Minister, she definitely needs to be fired. This is the facts of the matter, and you get to decide. This is why politics is so important to the whole thing, because Angela Rayner represents the unions and the kind of left side of the Labour Party, which the Prime Minister needs on his side. And housing is a huge part of his agenda. And so he does need someone popular and talented at politics to lead it. So I don't think she does need to go. And I think that's partly because she has a very compelling story to tell on the whole thing. It does sound, and I don't want to prejudice this report, but it does sound quite innocent to me. Anyone who's had to buy a house or had to pay tax on anything knows how incredible.
Oh, geez, we've lost the signal. Not to worry, we'll get that back. And Nicola, what do you think? Would you agree? Do you think that actually this was an honest mistake and let's move on?
Yeah, I really bought it from her yesterday. I think that she generally is quite an authentic politician, and I felt very, very sorry for her in a sense that, to me, it appeared that she'd made an honest mistake when she spoke to Beth Rigby in that interview. I don't think she should be fired for this. I think it should highlight, though, just how difficult the HMRC tax system can be. And if the housing minister herself can make what she says is an honest mistake, what about the likes of you and I, or people who are regular taxpayers, and they are having difficulty navigating a system that they're concerned, even if they're honest, months down the line, they might get caught out on a mistake. And I think that really there should be reform in that area.
That's a really good point. I wonder, going back to Cleo. Cleo, the right-wing press in particular, which is basically, you know, most of the press, with a few exceptions, are like a dog with a bone with this. They're not going to let it go. I mean, it has been on the front pages for over a week now. So is that going to factor into things, do you think? Is that going to factor into Keir Starmer's decision, or indeed Angela Rayner's decision, whether she decides to go herself?
I mean, it might, but it shouldn't. I think a really important rule if you're in government is you do have to ignore quite a lot of that white noise. You set the agenda, don't let the media do that for you. I think a bigger problem actually is this is the latest in a kind of stream of these sorts of stories. We've had the homelessness minister have to resign last month for kicking out tenants that she shouldn't have done. We've had clothes gates, we've had donor gates where the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have been accepting gifts from a donor to buy clothes and Taylor Swift tickets and all the rest of it. And I think that's a slightly more difficult problem for Keir Starmer's government, where they were rightly very aggressive to previous Conservative governments about their standards in public life, and it can feel a bit hypocritical. I actually think of all of the kind of cases that have come up in the last year, this is the most innocent, particularly because, like exactly as we've been discussing, it's such a ridiculous, opaque system, and it's so hard for everybody. But I think it's because it's the latest in a long line of these kinds of scandals. That's the bigger problem here. I also think an important factor is the budget, which is going to be on the 26th of November. And all the kind of stuff I'm hearing about it is that housing and home ownership is going to be at the centre of that. And there are potentially more strange, complicated taxes coming on top of stamp duty and everything else that comes with buying or renting a home. Right. So I actually think there's the kind of question of her and how she's behaved and whether she has intentionally done something wrong, which it doesn't quite sound like she has, versus what is the wider policy, and is the government about to make all this even more complicated, which is relatively indefensible, I would say.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I just wonder about Nicola, when we look at this, and there's human beings involved in it, you know, that's the thing that's very difficult. And she was very, very emotional when she was talking. And as you said, you felt for her, you know, you felt sorry for her.
Totally, not just because of this tax issue, but mainly because of her family. Now, she's kept her family largely
very much so
out of the limelight, and there was a court order that prevented people from reporting about these details of her private life. She herself lifted that court order the day before yesterday so that she could do this interview. She's had an incredible amount of press intrusion, which is understandable for somebody in her position, but so have her family and her family members who are under 18 as well. She wants to do her best to protect those family members. I challenge anybody in the same position to say whether or not they would do the same. So, yeah, on that respect, I do feel really sorry for her. She's a working class, left-wing woman. She's going to be treated differently by the establishment media in this country. And while, yeah, I think that some of what she's done is perhaps comparable to what some Tory MPs had done as well, I think perhaps the majority of people look at Angela Rayner and go, do you know what? I buy that.
She also, though, to be fair, she plays the working class card. You know, she has done throughout her career. Sure. Of course she has. She does do that. There is this whole wider aspect, if you like. Are we holding politicians to impossible standards? Because, again, you know, as I say, they're human beings and all human beings make mistakes. Yeah. Or, you know, maybe do things deliberately, all of that. You know, we're expecting them to behave in a way that probably we don't, maybe? I don't know, because I think they should be held to account, always. But are we making it too difficult for them?
I think that we in the media make it too difficult for politicians to apologise. And it means that we have a kind of culture within Westminster that politicians will stand there and barefaced lie. Yes. They refuse to apologise for months and months on end. And actually, here we have a politician who's held her hands up and said, I've made a mistake, I'm going to rectify it, I'm reporting myself to be investigated. And I think perhaps it's time that we accepted that behaviour.
So it's time to move on. Do you think people will move on, Cleo? Do you think it's likely to happen, that people will say, OK, yeah, you know, the likes of the media, the Express, the Mail, all the rest of them, will they just go, OK, then you've said that now, so let's move on to someone else?
I mean, they are good at sensing blood in the water, so who knows? But she does have this opportunity to draw a line under the whole thing now. I thought, exactly as Nicola said, that Beth Rigby interview yesterday was very compelling for the kind of personal side of it. And you know, you guys are celebrities, you'll know much better than me about how your private life gets dragged into your persona, you know, into your public persona. And is that fair? Just incidentally, there is a thing when you become a minister in the government, you have an opportunity to sit down with the ethics team and you tell them everything, where all the bodies are buried, you know, whether you're into, like, I don't know, weird sex stuff or whatever. You have an opportunity to kind of reveal all and protect yourself by explaining any complicated matters to do with your personal life, your finances, etc. And their job is to protect you. And I do have questions for where the ethics team have been in all this, because they should have saved her.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, thank you both so much. Hi there. Thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. We upload new videos every single day. So click here if you're interested in this video, or head to the homepage for more amazing content.